Hello, I'm reading from a copy of Self-Realization Fellowship Lessons that I downloaded from angelfire.com. I'm starting on the bottom of S1 P17, page 3. Thoughts to remember. Always reflect your balanced attitude towards others. A calm person has his senses fully identified with the environment in which he places himself. A restless person does not notice anything. Consequently, he gets into trouble with himself and others and misunderstands everything. A calm person, by the virtue of his self-possession, is always at peace with others, always happy, always calm. Never change the center of your concentration from calmness to restlessness. Perform activities only with concentration. Many persons think that their actions have to be either restless or slow. This is not true. If you keep calm with intense concentration, you are able to perform all duties at the correct speed. The art of true action is to be able to act slowly or speedily without losing your inner peace. The proper method is to establish a controlled attitude wherein you can work with peace without losing your balance. This does not mean that you have to be calm for a while and then let your mind run riot. It is not the person who meditates a long time for one day and then does not meditate again for several days who becomes successful on the spiritual path. The person who meditates and always holds to the after effects of meditation throughout the day is the one who quickly approaches to godliness and cosmic consciousness. There are thousands of persons who are material. Their movements are materiality. They are matter in motion. Do not be like them. Cultivate inner calmness and poise. Madame Butterfly's attempts at concentration. Paramahansa Yogananda often told this story to illustrate what happens when a person with untrained mind sits down to concentrate. He called the principal of his story Madame Butterfly, though male students just as often have such experiences in their unrewarding efforts at concentration. The scene is Madame Butterfly's living room, the middle of a cold winter afternoon. Since all the housework is done and it's too dismal to go anyplace, our friend has some of that spare time she's always looking for in order to practice concentration. She sits down in a straight-backed chair. No sooner has her body touched the chair than she exclaims, "This seat is too hard. I should have a pillow." She finds one the right size and sinks down upon it. Then Madame Butterfly discovers that the chair squeaks. Transferring pillow and the body to another chair, she notices a draft and closes the window. Next, she develops a tendency to sneeze. But her handkerchief had dropped near the chair. Her handkerchief reclaimed, Madame contentedly thinks, "Now for a delightful dip into the depths of concentration." A few moments pass, and her mind is just beginning to settle when the boiling radiator begins to bubble. In disgust, she jumps up and roughly chokes the radiator's voice. Once more she settles herself. Righteous indignation increasing the determination to dive deep into meditation. Then, in the apartment next door, someone starts playing the piano, accompanied by laughter and loud talking. Now Madame Butterfly is both mad and disgusted. She considers pounding on the wall, but after all, it is the middle of the afternoon, so the neighbors have a right to play if they wish. She begins to listen and think, "That's really a good piano." Our friend then recalls other pianos she has heard. She remembers the pleasant days when she was a child and used to dance while her dear old grandmother played rustic airs popular in her own youth. She thinks of some of her grandmother's escapades as an attractive young belle. And so on, until suddenly Madame Butterfly remembers her original purposes of concentration and jerks herself from her sweet reverie. She tries to assume the saintly dignity of a veteran yogi, rebuking her body and mind for their restlessness. She makes a desperate effort to regather the battered fragments of her self-control. Her eyes have hardly closed again when the telephone crows out with impudent, patience-piercing pernicity. I will not answer it, but the impertinent bell continues. Madame Butterfly begins to doubt her wisdom. It might be an important call, she thinks, so she gets up and answers the phone only to find that someone has dialed the wrong number. This ordeal over, she musters up enough courage to begin again, but now her head begins to nod. Her sense of shame at this is shoved aside by self-pity for her exhausted condition. But forcing herself to sit straight, Madame tries again. This effort is diverted by the clamorous ringing of the hoarse-voiced doorbell. She remains still for a few moments, but the patient breaking jangle goes on until she begins to think it must be something important. Once at the door, however, Madame Butterfly assumes a galvanized smile as three feminine acquaintances, all of whom have a master's degree in the art of gossiping. Behind the artificial flower of her forced smile, our friend hides the stinging wasp of petulance as she thinks, "Oh, you pest, why couldn't you have stayed away and let me concentrate?" Happily oblivious to this, the three visitors enter and busy themselves raking and prodding in everyone else's dirt heaps, secure in the knowledge that for the moment there is a keep-off sign on their own. Madame Butterfly laughs pleasantly, and 3 hours slip away before she has the relief of closing the door behind these inordinate gossips. Automatically she resumes her attempts at concentration, but now her attention is mobbed by memories of leaky radiators, piano pounding, telephone bells, raucous doorbells, and gossipy tidbits. Guiltily she halts this mental resume. What time is it anyway? Madame looks at her watch and with a resigned sigh rises and starts to the kitchen to get supper. The living room is empty again. It might be just as well have remained so all afternoon as far as Madame Butterfly's efforts at concentration are concerned. The above experience is not an exaggeration. It is only a sample of what happens to most people when they attempt to concentrate. Inspiration. It is good to remember the following. Seek intensely until you find God. Knock until the doors of all wisdom are opened unto you. Believe and act according to your faith until you know. Pray until He answers. Meditate deeper and deeper until you find and feel Him as unending joy. Love Him until you feel His love. Talk to Him continuously in silence until He speaks to you. Remember, the so-called certainties of life, such as money, fame, and friends, are really the most difficult to retain. They may slip away any minute. So make the imperishable, so-called unknown, uncertain God your own. You will find Him most faithful when He always leaves you, when all else leaves you beyond the last gate of this life. Affirmation. I will open the only gate, the gate of meditation that leads to Thy blessed presence. Self-Realization Fellowship Lesson S1 P18. Thy self-realization will blossom forth from thy soulful study. Where I Found Thee by Paramahansa Yogananda. I bow to Thee in silver rays, I drink to Thee in sunbeams. I stand in reverence before Thy mountain majesty. I clasp Thine image reflected in the lake. In the voice of the echo I hear Thy voice. I embrace Thee in the calm caress of the breeze. I bathe in Thy bubbling fountain of my bosom. The explosions of my passions have died away. I hear Thy whispers in the pines and in the gentle swish of the laughing waters of the lake. I listen to Thy sermons through the voice of my reason. I beheld Thee plowing the soil of my soul with trials, and sowing the seeds of Thy wisdom therein. Every day I watered the seeds sown by Thee but it is only when the sunshine of thy mercy came that those seeds sprouted, grew, and yielded the harvest of contentment. Suddenly the waters, nature's green carpets, the blue vastness overhead, and the opaque stones and my body became transformed into a vast mirror by the magic touch of my silence, and I saw myself reflected in everything. And when in concentration I looked at myself, I became transparent, and in my transparency I could not find me, only thee, only thee. Prayer. Divine Mother, let the magic wand of my intuition stop the gale of passions and unnecessary desires, and in the rippleless lake of my mind let me behold the undistorted reflection of the moon of my soul glistening with the light of thy presence. Definitions of concentration. The great Hindu sage Patanjali said, "The union with God is established by neutralizing the restless thought and desire waves of the consciousness." To illustrate, the image of the moon looks distorted if it is reflected in the waters of a lake whose surface is rippled by the wind. But if the wind subsides, the ripples vanish and the clear, undistorted, reflected perfection of the moon is seen. God is reflected as soul in the lakes of consciousness in myriads of human beings, just as the one moon may be reflected in a million lakes. But because the lakes of human attention are rippling with sensation and thoughts caused by the storms of breath and mental restlessness, the soul image of God reflected there is distorted. When the self-realization fellowship technique of concentration is successfully practiced, the waves of breath cease owing to the restfulness of the heart. Then the ripples of sensation and the restless thoughts vanish from the lake of attention, and the undisturbed reflection of the soul is seen. Patanjali emphasizes the negative side of concentration, but that is as soon as the attention is free from the objects of distraction, it can reveal the soul, just as the removal of the hand from in front of the lens of a flashlight reveals the things in front of it in the dark. Jesus said, "If thy hand or thy foot offend thee, cut them off, and cast them from thee. It is better for thee to enter into life halt or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out." That's Matthew 18:8 and 9. In these words are hidden a biblical definition of concentration. Jesus meant that every devotee must know how to concentrate and do away with all distractions of sensations such as touch, thy hand, and sight, thine eye. The devotee must know how to calm the senses, i.e., take consciousness away from them, and how to withdraw the life force from the sensory motor nerves, which are the conductors of disturbing sensations. Thus he will know how to enter the eternal life, the ever-conscious, ever-existing, ever-new bliss of the soul. The life force in the nerves keeps the soul entangled with messages of sensation from the eyes, ears, hands, and so forth. But when the life force is plucked away from the eyes and cut off from the hands and from all consciousness of the body, the soul's attention becomes freed from the distracting messages of the senses. Then the soul becomes cognizant of its divine nature. Only then is a state of complete concentration reached. The following is a psychologically sound and scientific definition of concentration. Concentration is that power which one can apply negatively to free the attention from objects of distraction, and positively to place the attention on a single idea or object at a time. When the attention is freed from minor distractions, it may be directed to act positively by focusing its rays on any kind of problem or upon God. It is all right to say that a person is concentrating on how to make more money in business or that he is concentrating on God. But you should not say he is meditating on his business problems. For real meditation, as taught to self-realization students, is that specific form of concentration that is applied only to knowing God. Many students try ineffectually to meditate, to think about God, but they are still hypnotized by restlessness and cannot forget their surroundings. In order to get results, one must learn how to detach his attention from distracting thoughts and sensations that apply it to God. No meditation is possible without knowing the art of concentration. Prayer, chanting, and singing all become a mockery without application of the positive and negative factors of concentration and meditation. All people need to know the art of concentration in order to gain real success, each in his own respective path. No one can concentrate deeply upon God, art, business, or anything else without first disengaging his attention from outer and inner distraction. Hence, a scientific technique for freeing one's attention from the objects of distraction is the only way to get results. How hopeless it is for either the housekeeper, the businessman, or the spiritual aspirant to try to concentrate by employing the popular way of mental diversion. The student who wishes to learn real concentration should begin by learning two things: what the objects of distraction are, two, how the attention can be scientifically switched off from them. Many men and women believe that prayer takes the place of concentration. This is true only when the laws of prayer are followed. Most people who try to contact God do so unscientifically and hence ineffectively, either by blind devotion or by intellectual investigation. Of course, if the prayer is intense and the attention automatically disengages itself from objects of distraction and forces itself upon God, then one has true concentration. But the program of worship in most cases consists in a variety of physical ceremonies such as singing hymns and listening to sermons. The attention has no opportunity to go deep into God consciousness. The Heavenly Father does not reveal himself to those who intellectually wise but without devotion, nor to the emotionally intoxicated who are unable to reason clearly, but unto those who worship him as little children wholeheartedly and with full attention. To those blessed ones who worship me, turning not otherwhere with minds set fast, I bring assurance of full bliss beyond. Bhagavad Gita. God will come into all churches and temples if he finds the heart doors of the devotees within open to him, and if genuine soul-inspired concentration or meditation gives him a welcome. God can never be bribed by the size of a church congregation, nor by its wealth, nor by well-planned sermons. God visits only the altars of hearts that are cleansed by tears of devotion and lighted by soul-stirring love. 4 states of consciousness. The first state of consciousness is marked by complete identification of the self and its well-being with the struggle for and acquirement of material and physical satisfactions. Such a person does not try to understand the power behind his brain, without which no gainful or pleasurable activity can be carried on. The second state is reached when a person, by occasional concentration on higher things, tries once in a while to get away from his preoccupation with the sensory world. The third state is reached by deeper concentration. The yogi arrives at a middle point wherein he enjoys a glimpse of inner bliss. His spiritual and material tendencies are now evenly matched as a result of steady effort at concentration and of proper schooling in the habits of silent concentration. The fourth state comes when the consciousness becomes completely identified with only good or God, and the yogi goes beyond the oppositional states of good and evil. Awakening in God, the yogi finds that the dual states of good and evil have vanished, just as sorrowful or joyous dream experiences of diseases and health, bereavement, and fulfillment vanish upon one's awakening from sleep. Portrait of an unsuccessful businessman. He gulps down an inadequate breakfast, hurries to his office, and sits at a desk littered with papers that mutely shriek unfinished business. He picks up one or two letters and glances at them, but before his mind can formulate any replies, he glimpses the appointment pad on his desk and realizes that he must decide on a course of procedure before he talks to Mr. Blank. He tries to concentrate on this problem, however. His mind keeps reverting to the letters just put aside and wants to mull over those problems instead. The din of his secretary's typewriter annoys him. He shouts at her to stop. A moment later, he realizes that she's typing on a rush assignment he gave her, so he shouts at her again to go on. To calm himself, he begins smoking his after-breakfast cigar. This brings to mind another problem. He tells himself that he should be firm in his determination to quit smoking. Ragged nerves tug at the sleeve of his conscience, and finally he dashes the cigar into an ashtray. At this inopportune moment, the secretary brings over a pile of letters to be signed. The boss, unreasonably upset at the intrusion, angrily banishes her to the outer office. He tries to concentrate on his problem once more, but the pieces won't go together. His ineffectual struggle makes him sleepy, and he dozes off in disgust at his inability to work out a solution. This is his first comfortable moment, so he quietly drifts into deeper slumber. The secretary returns, jolting him back to consciousness just in time for his important appointment with Mr. Blank. But inasmuch as he has failed to map out a plan, he talks haphazardly all around the subject, gives the impression that he is only an ineffectual bluffer, and the deal he hoped for falls through. Affirmation. I shall seek to know thee first, last, and all the time. Finding thee first, I shall find in thee all things that I crave. Self-Realization Fellowship Lesson S1 P19. Thy Station Joy by Paramahansa Yogananda. From thy station joy, I hear daily thine ineffable, shrill, soft tones, dear and familiar. At first I tried to tune thee in from so far, far away. Thy program seemed beyond the reception of the tiny instrument of my mind. But after I had made many fine touches on the dial of meditation, thou didst come in on sudden etheric wings. Thou wert singing a melody of earth's goodness and the nobility of all hearts, from Whispers from Eternity. Prayer. O Spirit, teach me to pray with deep concentration and to imbue scientific meditation with devotion. May my heart daily become more pure by all surrendering love for Thee. The art of concentration. Distractions that invade silence. People are eagerly seeking success or health, but even if they gain it, they are restless just the same. The soul's hunger cannot be satisfied by material substitutes nor by theological chaff. Some modern religious movements are adopting going into the silence in their program of Sunday worship. But going into the silence, though it brings some peace, does not teach the groping spiritual aspirant how to commune with God. Going into the silence by diverting and silencing thoughts is only a negative factor of concentration and a slow method of establishing God contact. The difference between spoken prayer and silence is considerable. In audible prayer, the mind is busy with sounds and bodily motions as well as with restless thoughts. In ordinary silence, the mind is kept partially quieted by keeping the body still, and the optic telephone is cut off by the closing of the eyes. But the thoughts within may still run wild. Some people succeed in silencing their thoughts for a moment or two and get a little glimpse of the peaceful face of God through this temporary crack in the wall of restlessness. But often a real seeker is confronted by darkness with only an occasional glimpse of peace, which is soon broken by the disturbance of restless thoughts. He begins to wonder, is this all there is to God and His inspiration? When he opens his eyes and gets out of this state of negative silence, at first he is filled with a sense of wonder at the glory and immensity of sunlight, at the mysterious power of electricity that causes the trolley cars to run hither and yon, at the marvel of skyscrapers, at the lightning searing the sky, at the powerful light of the moon. But as he experiences only a little occasional peace and silence, he gradually finds less and less consolation in the powers and manifestations of nature. Soon he begins to belittle his strivings for more spirituality and his inner experiences during periods of silence. The cosmic light or cosmic energy. The creator of all forces hides behind the darkness at first perceived in silence, but those who are in the darkness of negative silence do not comprehend that. In these self-realization fellowship studies, you will learn how to produce scientifically a positive state of meditative silence and thus quiet all thoughts and sensation. There are higher states of concentration, and as the devotee ascends to them, one by one, he comes into higher and higher spheres of indescribable joys and uplifting experience and visions. He blissfully realizes, "He whom I was seeking in the cloud forest of the blue is here with me, within me. I sought him as a power without, only to find that he, the fountain of all nature's forces, exists within me. In the silence, just behind the walls of darkness, I adoringly perceive him. To perceive God, one must first learn the positive and negative factors of silence. It is necessary to analyze the definite psychological elements of distraction that invade silence as one's attention tries to march towards its mental objective. Sensations. For example, as soon as you sit to concentrate upon your business in the office, your attention is busy with the noise of typewriters and other office equipment, or with the roar of streetcars and automobiles in the street outside, intruding on your consciousness through the auditory nerve wires. Touch sensations of comfort, pleasurable feelings of the flesh, such as after-dinner satisfaction or abundant vitality and so forth, or of discomfort, disagreeable feelings such as itches, aches, binding of tight clothes, perspiration, heat, cold, hunger, and weariness, pour into the brain through the tactile nerve wires. Your attention may be preoccupied with the body odors of nearby persons, or with the fragrances of flowers in the room, or the perfume used by someone near you. Sensations that keep crowding into your brain through your olfactory nerve wires. Or your attention may be busy with visual sensations being reported to the brain through your optic nerve telephones. The sight of your office furnishings or others' apparel. Your attention may be busy with pleasant or unpleasant sensations of the palate, the taste of peppermint candy or chewing gum, or an after-smoking taste, or the after sensation of the taste of cold water that you may have drunk not long before. So you see that all the attention, all you see that all the while your attention wants to concentrate upon a problem, upon business, or upon God. It meets with the distractions caused by sensations of sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell. Okay, I'm going to end there for today. That is the bottom of page 3, S1, P19. Talk to you later. Bye.